Hello and welcome. Welcome to Cultivating Lasting Daily Habits with Lindsey DiCello. Did I pronounce that properly?
You did, yes.
Okay, cool. Lindsey has been in tech since 2015 and is often the first to volunteer for new projects. She's a recovering perfectionist whose daily habits have helped her manage her anxiety and thrive at work. She currently supports technical recruiting efforts at Bright Health, and when she's not behind the computer screen, she's teaching yoga or building furniture. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Lindsey. And please put where you're from in the chat so we can get to know each other. Lindsey, I'm turning it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to share this with you all today. I'm really curious to see where everybody's located. I am currently outside of Chicago, small farm town. If anyone's seen Groundhog's Day, it was where that was filmed. It's called Woodstock. And I decided to give a little talk on cultivating lasting daily habits. I know the last year has been a whirlwind for many, many different reasons for a lot of people. And something that I've been lucky enough to explore is just like creating and establishing really good routines to help me stay sane, basically, but just be healthy and all of the things. So while everyone posts where they're from, I'd also love to know like what your current work environment is like. Like, is everyone starting to transition back to the office, hybrid, staying fully remote? Kind of what does that look like for you all? And I am just, hello. Oh, we have the UK. Welcome, John. That's super cool. So yeah, that's the basis of the session is lasting daily habits. And I say daily with like, I don't want to emphasize daily. Really finding that work-life home balance and all of that good stuff. So I'm Linz, like Laura mentioned, tech by trade, yoga teacher at heart, recovering perfectionist. Nothing super fancy. And I want to kind of address like everyone's situation is super unique. Finding what works for you. Personally, I live at home. I don't have any children. So my routines are going to vary from someone who has 3 kids and balancing like a job where you go into the office every day because you have to be there. And the people that are working from home, it's a really interesting time to revisit how you show up to your life. I brought all of these books out because I know that I had put in the little thing like, oh, you've read all the books? Like, this isn't even all of it. I can't even begin to show you how many audiobooks I've listened to in terms of just like optimizing habits. And so much of it talks about like a morning routine and like a strict morning routine, wake up at 5, do X, Y, Z, and it's going to be great. I've tried it. It works sometimes, and then other times it doesn't work. So things to just like think about are like, how many hours do you want to work a week? Well, obviously there is some constraints on there depending on the agreement you have with your employer, blah, blah, blah. But for me personally, thinking about what time will you reply to emails and return calls? What activities do you want to finish while your kids are busy, et cetera, et cetera. That, like thinking about those types of things help you structure your day. How do you know if it's time to make a change? Super low energy, low creativity. You can have a short fuse, just feeling burnt out overall, high stress. And going back to the morning routine, if you believe you need a strict morning routine to be successful, but you're inherently a night owl, you're going to feel stuck and unmotivated. Something I learned last year from a therapist of mine actually was hinge points. So habits don't necessarily need to be daily to be effective. And I want to share, for me personally, life-changing thing of these hinge points. So I'm sure everybody's wondering, what is a hinge point? So like the hinges of a door, they help you move. They get you and keep you going. And if they're not in place, it can be significantly difficult to get and stay motivated. There's no one size fits all. There's three parts or three silos, I guess: basic and internal hinge points, external hinge points, and then the weird and wacky ones. Internal hinge points are things that you yourself can control. So when you sleep, where you're sleeping, how you wake up, the foods you're eating, what you eat, when you eat, how you eat, exercise, all of that good stuff, how you keep your environment, and then anything else that rely on you. Oh, I think we're still here.
Yeah, you're still here. It just stopped presenting.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Weird. Okay, stand by. All right, can y'all see it?
Yes.
Cool. Love it, love technology. So internal hinge points, they rely on you and your internal decisions and states. And like I mentioned before, if these aren't in place, it can be really hard to just get and stay motivated. So for me personally, I need to be asleep by like 11 p.m. and I typically wake up anywhere between 5:30 and 6:30 during the weekdays. That's what works for me. If you're a night owl, maybe your best work is produced at 1 a.m. and you sleep until 11. Like, it's completely individual to the person. Same with food. I feel better personally if I'm not eating a lot of processed foods, and just I can't eat before 10 a.m. for whatever reason. Like, I just can't do it. Same with exercise. The intensity is going to vary person from person. Some weeks I can only go to yoga classes. Other weeks I'm like, I'm going to run 5 miles or whatever the case may be. And another thing that is interesting to think about as it relates to you is just like remembering that it doesn't have to be a daily thing. Like, your exercise routine doesn't have to be a daily thing for it to be effective. It's just allowing yourself like the space to figure out when you can work it into your schedule, and the understanding that like, okay, I can go to this particular class at this time and I know I'm going to feel a lot better after I go, and prioritizing that so that way you're able to fully show up to your other responsibilities. And then we have our external hinge points. So these are the motivating factors outside of ourselves. And it could be you're really motivated by being a part of a team or a family. Like, that gets you up and going. It makes you want to show up to do the things. Your support network could be a really important factor in how you show up to things, whether that is in the form of like seeing a therapist or like having a community that you go and you volunteer with, things like that. An accountability coach, a partner, a group, all of that fun stuff. Helping and being of service to others can be a really great motivating factor. Being competitive too, like if you like are in sales or recruiting, sometimes you can get like that mindset of like, oh yeah, like I'm totally gonna hit XYZ goals. That can be a motivating factor for some people, but for other people, it could be like, oh my God, no, that's way too stressful. That's not how I work. Another interesting one is having some options or having no options. So if you don't have any other options with a certain project, for you personally, that could be like, yes, I'm going to do this because there's nothing else to do. Or it could be, I have some options and that's really exciting to me because I want to explore XYZ. The last external factor, there are more than this. These are just kind of examples. But the last external pressure or hinge point is having moderate pressure. So I know for me personally, if I don't have a deadline for something, it's gonna not get done. Like, for example, this presentation, I had to give myself a deadline and have my coach hold me accountable to that, because if I didn't have that deadline, I probably would just be talking to you all and not have anything to present. So now we get on to the interesting ones, the weird and wacky. Needing to be doing something that you think no one else can do can be really motivating to some people. Competing with other people, but only if you're guaranteed a win. It's kind of like racing a toddler, like you really want to race him and you're like, I'm totally going to beat this 3-year-old. And that's like really exciting. Needing to wear something odd or unique to be noticed can be motivating, like getting up in the morning and be like, I'm going to wear these cool earrings because I got them at the thrift store and I want to show them off. And I just feel better waking up and like putting on some sort of like, you can just show your personality by what you're wearing. Other people thrive on attention. It's totally dependent on the person. And there's different types of attention as well. I think I have, needing to do something that's never been done before can be related to needing to do something that you think nobody else can do. Never doing something twice, like always wanting to do something different. And then the extreme pressure. And there can be like pretty extreme examples of that. So, I wanted to give us some time to identify your hinge points. One thing to note is some people might not have any internal, external, or wacky. A lot of us will have a mix of the three, but it's most realistic to identify 2 or 3 of your main hinging points. There's another typo, that's okay though. And the goal of this is to pinpoint what actions that are in your control that you can take to get you out of a spot where you're feeling stuck. And another thing to just be aware of is they can change over time. Like they don't need to be a daily thing to be effective. And like I mentioned, there are some weeks where like I have to go for a run to stay sane. And then there are other weeks where all I want to do is just go to like a restorative yoga class. And the purpose of identifying these hinging points is weaving them into your daily life. That way you don't have to worry about losing your motivation because the motivation will be built into your daily life. One thing I want to mention before we start working through some of these questions is you might not like what your hinging points are. Just because it's something that will get you motivated doesn't mean you're actually going to like them. Like, I'll just use the running example. I hate running so much, but how I physically and mentally feel after going for a run is so beneficial to like my internal state. So yeah, if you don't have a pen and paper, let's grab one. I'm sure we have some in nearby. I also want to open the floor for anyone to share in the chat or hop on stage and just like chat about some of these questions. So let's ask ourselves, like, when do I feel the most motivated? Is it when I wake up early in the morning, I go for a run, I get ready for the day, yada, yada, yada? Or is it when I wake up slow, spend time with my family, and then I like go for an afternoon walk and get the most work done from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. So we can revisit those internal, external, and wacky, weird hinge points and just be like, oh, I noticed that when I do X, Y, Z, this is when I'm feeling the most focused and the most ready to go, and all of that good stuff. So if anybody wants to share when they feel the most motivated, personally, I feel the most motivated when I wake up early in the morning, go for a run, and like actually shower and like put on human clothes and not just like my pajamas from the night before. And I also don't like having phone calls before 10:30. Like if I have phone calls before 10:30 in the morning, I guarantee any focus I have for the day is like gone. Like if there's any deep work that needs to get done, I'm like, it's not gonna happen. Morning.
I'll share.
Yeah.
I'll share mine. Definitely morning for me, but I really need that cup of coffee and that quiet time. And I always woke up earlier than everybody so that I could have quiet time. And then I'm like planning through my day. And once I have organized it and untangled everything, I get moving. And if it's noon and I haven't gotten moving, there's no moving me that day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just want to remind everybody that if you do want to hop on stage, you need to raise your hand, and that's the only way I'll be able to pull you on stage to answer. And that's up in the chat section, one of the options.
I feel the most motivated when I have a plan and a list of what I want to accomplish. I love lists. I will do a little plug of my journal that's helped me. So this is, it's called Rituals for Living, and it's a little planner book, and it basically gives you like a weekly boot camp that you do, and it's a pretty standard calendar, but it encourages you to weave in habits like this throughout your life. So you identify habit tracking that you want to do. So for me, something I've been working on is meditating, drinking more water, running, and then just like finding those moments of gratitude. And then I schedule it in throughout the week, and then you keep track of it. I'll type it in the chat. It's Rituals for Living. Love that little thing. It's a really great tool to have when kind of restructuring everything. And Arini has a question. How do you motivate yourself when you're in a negative space, even if it's usually your best time? Honestly, it's figuring out like what it is I need in that moment. So some other hinge points that I didn't have listed, or maybe I just glossed over, are like quality time with a loved one, getting a massage, creating really intentional time for self-care, because most of the time, even if you're in the best time and you're still in that negative space, there are still those hinge points that can take you from point A to point B and help shift that. And I will also say, like, we are human, and just because we're in a negative space doesn't mean we're going to stay there. Sometimes there are those things that come up for us to just acknowledge and be with. That's something that yoga has helped me a lot with, especially when it comes to like feeling anxious, like unworthy, depressed, like all of these negative, heavy emotions. Like sometimes there is no running from them. You just have to be with them and know that it's going to shift eventually. That's a good question. I feel the most motivated when I have some extra time in the morning to exercise, regroup, plan my day. Fortunately, that doesn't happen more often enough. Yeah, I get that. I got on this book. I read this book. It was called The 5 a.m. Club. And I started waking up at 5 a.m. back in 2019. And now, like, I can't sleep past 6:30. Even if I want to, like, I just physically can't. And I found that getting up that early in the morning helped me, like, create more time for that. But it's such a, like, personal thing. So sometimes it's, like, doing things later in the day. Yeah, I love the bullet journal and getting up in the morning. Accountability buddies are really great. So all of that said, I love everyone sharing how they're feeling most motivated. I'd be curious to know, like, when do you feel like you're moving in slow motion, or you're just kind of like phoning it in? Is that right after this particular meeting, or is it on days where I didn't drink enough water before bed, or haven't put my feet in the grass in 5 days? For me, I feel like I'm moving in slow motion when I don't make time for personal relationships, because I tend to use work to escape just other things. And then I'm like, oh wait, I have friends that I don't need to talk about work with. I should catch up with them and talk about not work related stuff. I feel like I'm moving in slow motion when I don't carve out time for that. So if anyone wants to share, you can share that or just write them down. And then just take a moment to reflect, in the past, when have I performed the best? Whatever that means to you personally. Overcommitting to workloads. Oh, I feel that, John. I tend to put my foot in my mouth in a lot of meetings. I'm like, oh, we should do this. And they're like, yeah, it's a good idea. And they're like, you want to do it, Lindsay? And I was like, well, if I never said that, nobody would have asked me to do it. a meeting that was full of negativity, that too. Yeah, these are great points. Thank you all for sharing. And then the last one, are you more internal or externally motivated? For me personally, I'm way more internally motivated. Like, my house is very important to me. My yoga practice is very important to me. My mornings are very important to me. I'm much more internally motivated. And I think a lot of that also stems from those are a little bit more in my control than the external things. Like, the external things can be in your control to a certain extent. But the internal stuff is like just it's kind of a given, like how you structure all of that. So I'll go back real quick and we can revisit the hinge points. So external is like being a part of a team, family, showing up for them, having that support network, being of service to others, having moderate pressure, having some or no options, competitive in nature, and then the internal ones, sleep, food, self-care, all of that good stuff. And then we'll just look at the weird and wacky ones. External with a little weird, with a little internal and wacky sprinkled in. What are your wacky ones, Laura?
I definitely like the earrings.
Mm-hmm.
I like breaking out into song.
Okay. I like that.
Yep. If I'm alone in the house, the songs are, I pretty much sing. I sing I sing narrate what I'm doing.
I do that sometimes too. That's awesome.
Especially if there's a pet I can have a conversation with. Yes.
Yep. That's the best. I'm trying to think. That's so funny. Does anyone, John, do you want to share any of your wacky ones? Anyone? I'm love to know.
I got a raised hand. Here comes John.
All right.
There we go.
Hey, John.
Hello. Yeah, so my wacky one actually relates to this. I want to do things that haven't been done before. That's a massive motivator.
Yeah.
And, so massive motivator in doing something that wasn't done before was this, providing a space whereby people who wanted to speak for the very first time got their shot. And yeah, it's a wacky, it's a weird, and when we're talking about what kind of makes you feel like you're in slow motion, overcommitting, goodness, it's for me this week is speaking at one conference, doing this conference at the same time, finalizing a house and doing a 9-to-5 job and running the GLDC community at the same time. So,
wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, wacky. Also, jazzy socks.
Oh,
those are the best. What are your favorite pair? What's the pattern on your favorite Gen Z socks?
They are from Stance, which is an incredible sock company, and they are Balinese flowers.
Okay.
Oh,
I dig it.
Nice.
And I've got some degreed socks as well.
Nice.
Degreed?
Degreed. I've got like a bunch of degreed like swag. So like I've got a degreed spatula and degreed socks. So yeah.
Cool.
Life's cool. So yeah, those are my wackies.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, John, and thanks for coordinating and hosting all of this. Really appreciate it.
I'm just here to help. The real ones are Laura. She's amazing.
It's been fun. So do we have anybody else who wants to come up on and share their wacky or internal, external? Raise your hand. Come on, don't be scared. Okay, they're scared.
That's all right. I'm scared too. I'm sweating. You guys can't tell, so it's fine. Cool. Well, I am mindful of time. That went by a lot quicker than I had anticipated, and I really appreciate you all bearing with me. And hi, Holly. I see you joined in. External things come naturally. I like the prioritizing internal. I will always be a very big advocate for internal self-care things. Like Holly and I work together, and I am basically the like, have you drank enough water today? Like, how did you sleep enough last night? I love it. Let's see. So yeah, to wrap it all up, once you identify some of your hinge points, schedule it in. And it doesn't have to be every day. It just has to be when you are feeling like you need a little bit of a help to get from point A to point B. What you are not changing, you are choosing. And whenever I get in those funks, I remind myself of that. And I say that with so much compassion because I've been in very difficult spots mentally before. So I don't say that like, oh, you're being lazy if you're not changing things, because I do acknowledge how hard it can be to actually get yourself to start. But I hope that this served as some sort of encouragement or inspiration, motivation, whatever positive vibes you got from it, to just even try one new hinge point and see if you can notice how it affects you and your internal state and also your external world. So I think that's it. Just take it a day at a time. Be nice to yourself.
Well, Lindsey, thank you. This was terrific. And I wrote down what you're not changing, you're choosing, because that was extremely profound to me. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh no, that's my whole life. I need to fix that now. But thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And thanks so much to the participants for coming.
Yes, thank you all. I'm really grateful for everyone who tuned in. And thank you, Laura, for hosting. Really appreciate your support.
All right, we're going to end the session now. Bye.
Bye.